Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Jeff. This is Jeff Needs Sports, and this is our NFL Scouting Combine report. I've got a couple guys on here. I got Mo from Up in Flames, and most importantly, from NFL Draft Capital. So, like, this is kind of in his wheelhouse. I got I got Dunks on here, who is probably the most enthusiastic NFL Combine watcher I've ever met, and that's exactly why he's on. We've had this show scheduled for a while. And then you've got me, who I've been on podcation. I didn't watch the combine. I don't really know what's happened outside of some BS controversies. So I've got a couple of experts on here. I'm going to bounce some questions off of them, and we're gonna discuss it. Our thoughts and our just like overreactions to the NFL combine. So first of all, Dunks, how are you doing tonight, man?
Jeff, I'm living life, man. Happy to be on your show, man. It's been a long time coming. You've been on mine a couple of times, and it's always great chopping it up with you. And always love for the Buckeyes, man. Buckeye Nation guys stick together.
Of course. So, and your enthusiasm for the combine is why, like, I dreamt up the show, and then we were lucky enough that Mo could join us tonight.
Right.
With his draft expertise. And I'm just here to kind of drink beer and ask questions. So, Mo from Up in Flames, how are you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm all good. Like you said, I'm not enthusiastic about the combine. I will get into it.
But you are. You're enthusiastic, but
Yeah, I just have my thoughts on it, but no better than to share the thoughts with you and Dunk. So I'm definitely prepared for a great show.
yeah, just so anybody doesn't know, the 10 minutes before these shows start are some of the most heated, the fast-paced, like fun, like conversations that we have at the Off the Ball Network. And it's wonderful. Sometimes we got to reel ourselves in so we can save it for the show. So
Yeah.
again, our outtakes are awesome. So we just had a combine as we're recording now. It was last week in Indianapolis as usual. First of all, shout out to Couch Coach Live, one of our partners, one of our brothers, one of our dearest friends. He went to the combine. He interviewed, some of the prospects, had a great time, great achievement for him. He did a wonderful job. So just a shout out to Couch Coach Live for just an awesome weekend for somebody that has earned and deserves every second of it, man. That was great to see.
Yeah, definitely.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
So this is the combine pod. We'll kind of get warmed up here. Before we get to the questions, we're gonna get. I'll get since we already kind of went down this road pregame. I'm gonna go ahead and open the floodgates here. I'm gonna get just the overall thoughts on like what you feel about the combine. Dunks, that's one of your favorite things, and you've got great reasons for that. Mo, you've got some reasons that you don't put as much weight in it. We're going to get down there. So first of all, Dunks, you started to tell me like how you watch combine, why you watch combine, and how you started getting into it. So just tell us, just kind of tell us your story of watching the combine this year, because I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I do some work with Carthage football, and I was watching one of the guys that I do a lot of my recruiting work with, Coach Dibble, great guy. And we are just really going through watching it, looking at some guys. We have debates about which players are going to be better than others. So I think it's obviously fun to watch the combine with someone else, especially someone that's like really interested in it as well. You kind of get to bounce ideas off each other, what each other's thinking, because it's a lot different, like some opinions that we have on one player or another. Like, for example, I'm really high on Sauce Gardner and he's really high on Derek Stingley. So there's been a debate on who's going to be the better corner at the NFL level. So that's been a lot of fun. But I've enjoyed watching the combine this year. I think this is really the first year that I actually watched like the whole thing. I watched guys, compete. Obviously, I think the combine shouldn't just be like the end all be all of how we look at guys. I think you obviously got to take into account their film, their size, their weight, their wingspan, things like that are important to look at as well. But I think the combine is a good measuring stick and a good way for guys to move up and down the draft boards. And we'll talk about some guys that
Yes, we will.
were kind of rigged, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Okay. So Mo, you watch combine. Obviously, you run a whole show on NFL draft prospects. So this has got to be part of your evaluation. But to be fair, you expressed before the show maybe how you feel about the combine or don't feel about the combine. So let's get into that. Like, just kind of tell everybody what you were telling me before the show, and we'll dig into it.
The overall, like for me, while I'm not as, yes, I watch the combine. Do I watch every second of it? No, I don't. But yes, I watch the combine. There's some prospects I'm interested to see what they do. But to me, the overall, why I don't like the combine is why GMs and scouts get drafting wrong. Like I think it's plain and simple. Like the combine is the reason why you have a list. You have guys that are realistic. Yes, some could rise or fall to where, we might have to change our draft strategy a little bit. But as soon as the season ends, with that final 32 order, you already have been paying attention all year to college football. You know who you're looking at. You know who's realistically could end up at your spot. You always have about 8 or 9 guys, including people with the number 1 pick. They have I say that list gets smaller. You have about 5 or 6 that you're like, okay, we'll consider, but you have your 3. When you got number 1 pick, you can get anybody. So you got your 3 guys. Outside of that, you're not really paying attention to a lot of the other guys. You do have the number 1 pick. You looking at the 2nd and 3rd rounders, but I think they think too much into it watching the combine. A guy who wasn't high on your, position list wows you with the 40 and he jumps up 3 spots. Even though everything has told you up to this point, he is not better than the 3 receivers that you had ahead of him, but he had an amazing 40 time. He's jumped up 3 spots. He's a riser. He's a faller. And then I'm also not big, like receivers are running routes. I guess I'm more so if you fail. If you have a bad combine, that's an indictment on you as a player because there's no pressure. I mean, there's pressure of being a prospect, but there's no defense coming at you if you're a quarterback. There's no corners really guarding you and putting real pressure on you if you're a wide receiver. You're not really having to guard wide receivers if you're a corner. So, like, if you have a bad combine and you can't have one of your better days physically and you're not stretched, you're not ready to go, then that's an indictment on you. But if you perform great, cool. But I'm more of what does film tell me? And I know it's hard to evaluate because you're not going against, NFL talent every Saturday. But these main prospects that are going that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd round, a lot of those guys are going against those Power 5 schools. So I think it's more so for the people outside of the Power 5 schools that you kind of get to see them catching balls from top-notch prospects. You get to see a Sky Moore catching a pass from Kenny Pickett. Like, you get to see things like that. So now you're like, okay, he was really good. What does he do with an adequate quarterback that we're looking at as a 1st-round prospect? But I'm not huge into, like you said, Dunk, like, it's not the end-all, be-all for me, but I'm even more so, like, the combine hasn't made me change my outlook on many players, to be honest. Like, I feel how I feel about pretty much everybody, and a 40 time or a 42-inch vertical is not going to change that for me much, if any at all.
Yeah, I used to, and a lot of it was because I used to work more seasonal, so I was off in the winter. And I used to watch the combine. I was one of those guys because it used to be on during the day. Now it's more of a prime time thing. But like, it's people like me that made it popular. Like, I was watching it during the day on like a Wednesday, and all I ever took away was it felt like who it helped the most was, say, like, especially like a linebacker, maybe a defensive lineman, guys like that would come in and like, I don't know how athletic they are. And then those guys got a chance to be like, okay, with out of the constraints of like what I have to do, out of the pads and everything, like, you get to see that the difference between me and the next guy that you think is really athletic is not that far. And I think of a guy like, we talked about Ohio State, but this guy just happens to be a good example. I think like a guy like Pete Werner really did himself a lot of good last year, to where when he comes into the combine, you're like, will he even be an NFL player? He's way more athletic than anybody thinks. And then he had a really decent rookie career in the first year that I don't think he has if he doesn't get a chance to, show some explosion and show some of that. I think it, like most, I think it helps the guys that need help more than the top guys. Before we get into the questions, there is like this topic comes up this week. This was the big one. Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon. Felt like there was a lot of like conversation about, I don't know exactly what happened. You guys will help me out here, but it sounds like did he just kind of like not do the drills and stuff? Is this what I'm hearing?
Yeah, he sat out.
Yeah. So what, like, this obviously is a guy's on both high on your draft prospects list. There's no doubt about it. What does, like, I'll start with you, Dunks. Like, what do you think? This is just a great example. What do you think about Thibodeau going into the combine and coming out of the combine? or is it did it not matter? Because that seemed to be one that everybody was buzzing about.
Yeah, I think the same way about Thibodeau as I did before the combine. I think he's a top 5 player without a doubt in this class. I think he'll probably go either two or 3, possibly even number 1. With Jacksonville franchise tagging Cam Robinson, I think you might see one of those D linemen come off the board right away. But I mean, Thibodeau, he's an athletic freak. I mean, you turn on the tape, he stands out. You know, he's a big time player. And I mean, here's the thing, combine drills. I mean, if you sit out, okay. I mean, if you're a top 5 pick.
So
like,
you're not putting a bunch of weight on, like you don't put a lot of stuff. Like, here's what I keep hearing. Does he want to play football? How hard does he want to work? Like that's always going to be the narrative. Anytime a guy sits out on these things is like, does he love football? Blah, blah, and all that, as to where, like, I'm like, no, this guy realizes it doesn't matter. Like he can sit out if he wants to.
1 and 2, I think more so the combine. I think the more important part for these higher of the tier prospects, the Hutchinsons, the Neals, the Thibodeaus, these guys, the interview process is very key. You know, because you got to talk to these teams, you got to kind of sell them on what kind of person you are, what kind of player you are. I think that's the most important thing for these top guys. Now, those guys that are kind of later in the first round, second round, third round, so on and so forth, it's more important for those guys. But I don't think it really hurt Thibodeau at all. I think obviously there's some people that are going to think it does, because in everything in life nowadays, it seems like some people are on one side, some people are on the other.
The combine has always been about, this is when the GMs can start bad mouthing players to try and get them to drop down to their team. Like there's a lot of games players. So Mo, I'll ask you the same question. What do you think about Thibodeau going in and Thibodeau coming out?
So when I say this, Jeff, you'll understand more than anything. So what player on defense last year did people overthink it and tell us about his character issues and bring up past things and turned out to be the best defensive player in the draft?
Well, best defensive player in the draft was definitely Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons, right?
And he sat out his whole year. He sat out a whole football season.
And they questioned, because of COVID, it was excused, but they questioned, did he really love football? Then his character issues. Right. He got in that little bit of trouble, I think his freshman year at Penn State with the whole hazing thing or whatever. But everything told you, and told a lot of people, I mean, we talked about last year, but everything told you that this is probably the best defensive player in the draft. And if
I didn't even blink.
If you're the best defensive player in the draft, you're probably top 5. Like, take the character issues out. I know that's a cause for concern. With Thibodeau, it's like, if dude didn't really love football, I don't think he would enter the draft. I just, even if you love money, sometimes I don't love football, but I love the money it could bring, the fame it could bring. But you can get Hall of Famers out of that. And I guarantee you, if it's not a Hall of Famer, you can still get a really star football player who will tell you, like, when it's all, they're not going to tell you during their career. But when it's all said and done, some of them are, but I could have been even greater, but I love the money. I love the lifestyle it gave me. And so it kept me intact and working hard. But I didn't care about being the greatest. Like, there's people out there like that. And it's like, well, you don't want a guy like that. Yeah, but like, if you're not in the conversation of being the greatest, if you're not Lawrence Taylor, you still could be, you still could be Simeon Rice, who was an impactful defensive end. Like, if you're not the greatest.
Great comparison. Shout out to Simeon Rice.
Yeah, like, you could be like, okay, the greatest defensive end coming in, but like, I get Simeon Rice, a guy who's going to be really good, not great, but really good players have really long careers and get paid a really good amount of money. So I don't look at him any different. He's a top 5 talent. Like you said, I think he skipped it in, like, for what? Like, what is this going to do for me? If you're not looking, and I think some people don't think about, what if Thibodeau doesn't want to play for a bad team, but with social media and stuff, everybody says go the Eli Manning route if you don't want to go to a certain team. You can't do that in 2022. It can't happen. So what if Thibodeau's like, you know what? Let my name fall. The farther I fall, the better team I play for. And he don't want to go for a terrible team and just be a really good defensive end on a bad team. Like, that could be a thought process, but you can't come out and announce and be like, I'm not playing for the New York Giants. You cannot do that in 2022. They will send death threats to your DMs. They will do it. Fans do it. This is a total different era where you can't speak that I don't want to play for this team.
Well, and if you're not a white quarterback named Manning, it's real hard to do. I'm just saying, like, that's a certain situation.
Yeah, you really can't do that, especially in today's time. So who's to
imagine Stingley says, I'm not going to who drafts him. Like they would just burn down the NFL. Like they would just burn it down. And another thing too is everybody gets carried away with these guys and their contracts. They're like, oh, he's losing money. He's losing money. That money's not made in that rookie contract. I'm not saying it's not. You don't lose money on draft. It's that next one. It's 2 years or 3 years later when you renegotiate. You can go to any player, go to any team in the NFL. Yeah, he may lose a few million that first few years. It's that next contract to where he's like, okay, now it's time to get paid. So like, everybody gets too excited. Like wherever you get drafted, that's going to be your salary for the rest of your life. And I don't understand why people think that, because that is not true at all, especially like with quarterbacks and stuff. Like if you're a quarterback, just get on a roster, like get on a roster and start. That next contract is, defensive ends, like all these guys. Most good players don't sign their second contract with their next team. Like it's very common. Like I shouldn't say most, but a lot. Like a lot of them move around and move on, and you can't afford to keep them, and all of these things. Like that's how the NFL
quarterbacks.
It's almost like the NFL can't afford to keep guys that get really good that they draft. It's the weirdest thing because they just get so expensive that, so I think Thibodeau's like, nah, I'll have a fine contract. My next contract's going to be, ginormous. So that's another guy. I'm glad you guys brought up Stingley. I like that guy. I have no idea what he did in the combine. I know he kind of basically he stopped playing like halfway through the year. And I think it might have been an injury / just didn't finish or whatever. So did he perform in the combine, or did he sit out?
He sat out.
He sat out too. Okay. And let's all remember too, a great example. Deion Sanders also sat out of the combine. Like nobody remembers. He ran the 40. That's it. So everybody acts like this is something new. Like, no, guys have always done this, forever. So
didn't he run the 40? Didn't he show up with his chains on, run the 40 and left?
It's a bit of an urban legend because nobody, there's no footage of what he did. He swears that he walked in, ran the 40 and kept running out of the building. Nobody can verify, but he did run the 40 and it was fast and he was out. So like guys have been doing this for 30 years. This is nothing new. So that was just one guy I heard about this week that there was a lot of buzz about. I think we'll get into the Olave BS here in a little bit when I get wound up. So we'll start with the questions I actually gave you. We kind of touched on some of it, but so just your favorite test to watch. It doesn't matter whether it matters or whatever. Just like when you're just like as a viewer, what's your favorite test to watch, Dunks?
I think it's got to be like the drills that guys do, like
individual drills.
Yeah. Like for me, the one that really stood out was the wide receivers. How you got to catch the ball, keep running. That
the gauntlet
has to be there. With the DBs, it's all about footwork, and more footwork.
Yes.
Can't slip, can't trip. Got to be able to flip and open the hips and backpedal and stuff like that. So that's probably my most fun thing to watch, and I think that's also the most important thing that I'll probably take from the combine. So there's a little connection there, but I think it's got to be the drills. I like seeing guys play football. That's my big thing. So
my favorite, because I used to sit with my son and we would watch the DB drills, and my favorite is just to watch the DBs go through their footwork. And it's like, I remember the one that stands out in my mind was watching Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie go through his combine, one of the greatest combines I ever saw. And as he's doing his footwork, that's the one guy ever. I mean, he was coming, I want to say Mississippi Valley or Tennessee. It wasn't a division, a major school. I can't quite remember now, but Cromartie comes out, and I remember watching his footwork and being like, I draft that guy tomorrow. And of course he had a great career, in the NFL and everything, but it was perfect. Like his footwork was perfection. I agree with that. I'm a footwork guy too. Mo, what's your favorite thing to watch just as a viewer when you're watching the combine?
So you know how much I love skill positions. I love my receivers, my corners, I love my quarterbacks. I like the big boys getting after it. I like the big boys doing the shuttle drills. I like watching the D linemen and the D ends do the shuttle drills. And I like the bench press. I do, because I like being amazed at really how strong these human beings
It's
really are.
freaky.
Like, it doesn't hold. When I watch a guy bench press, like a guy like Jordan Davis, it's not going to hold a bunch of weight that he can do it 40 times. Like, I don't think his stock rises for that. And I go back, the most impressed bench I've ever seen was actually, it wasn't during the combine, but it was the same when they had the strongest man competition during the Pro Bowl. And Larry Allen.
Larry Allen was
you remember? But like stuff like that is absolutely impressive to me. Like the fact that a big boy, and they were more out of shape looking back then, offensive linemen, D linemen, they had more gut hanging out their jerseys a little bit. They weren't like a solid 320 or whatever, but just seeing that, and I just like seeing the big boys get after it. Like, how can you not enjoy the fact that we are in a time of life where guys are 6'6", 350 pounds, doing the shuttle at speeds that you never thought somebody that big should ever be able to move. So especially now with the bigger they get, the more athletic they get at this point, I like seeing the big boys get after it. They don't get enough love in the combine because there's not really enough drills for them to really show out. So I like watching them do the shuttle drill, and I like the bench press too.
Let's compound on it. I want to talk about Jordan Davis a little bit because I loved him all season. I loved him last year. This is a guy that, like, I don't think he had to even go to the combine, but then he goes to the combine and he's just blowing people's minds with what he can do. And that's a guy that, to me, it translated what he did on the field and it translated to the combine. So Dunks, I know you watch, like, let's talk about this Jordan Davis workout and like where's he at in the draft right now, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have him mocked, I believe, to Minnesota at 12. Or 13. I think he could go higher than that though. From what I've been hearing around like, league sources, stuff like that. A lot of people were impressed with him at the combine. And I mean, obviously, he can eat up blocks, which is huge,
and he can chase down. He's that guy. He's that defensive. He's the perfect defensive lineman. But he's the guy that can also, like, if he gets through the line, he can chase down a running back or a quarterback from behind, and that is ginormous because what have we seen in the modern football now? It's like, how much can you do without bringing linebackers? Like, how much can you get your linebackers into coverage? He is a guy that, they can do everything down there, and he keeps you in a base defense, and that is huge in the NFL. Mo, what do you think about Jordan Davis before and now?
I thought before he was probably a 15 to 20 guy. Like, I really saw him in that range. So I think he improved his stock a little bit with the combine. I think part of it too is, like, I think we all thought that he was going to be a little bit slower than what he performed in the 40 time. And I'm not saying that's like the end all be all, because obviously you run the 40 without pads on, without a helmet on. And, you guys both know, like, pads, helmets, that's a lot of weight right there added on. So you can't take too much from it, but I think just overall, I mean, Jordan Davis being from Georgia, going up against the best of the best every week, being in the SEC, going up against really good offensive line. You talk about Alabama, you talk about LSU, Arkansas, their offensive line well improved. So, I mean, they're going up against good competition, and Jordan Davis showed out and all year and in the combine too. So I think he improved his draft stock for sure. It'll be interesting to me where he really goes, because I could see him maybe slip into the top 10, but I could also see him being in that 10 to like 20 range. So
it's going to depend on the type of defense and all that. I understand.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the safest picks in the draft. Mo Murphy, where you got Jordan? What do you think about Jordan Davis before and after the combine?
Don't overthink it. Like, you seen, like, he was dominant on tape. He's going to plug up he's going to plug up the interior, and then he's more athletic than we gave him credit for or we thought. Simple. It's like, don't overthink it. Is he a top 10 pick? I don't know. We're also in a pass-heavy league. There's some very talented wide receivers, and it's, like you said, it's all about team needs, but he is a safe pick. Like, it's one of those, like, if he gets to falling in 14, 15, I might, if there's not the guy I really loved, I might stop thinking and do what Dallas did a couple years ago when, all right, we need some things, but CeeDee Lamb fell into our lap. Let's not overthink it. Let's get CeeDee Lamb. Like, I think he turns into that. Like, okay, he didn't fell into our lap. we didn't think he would be here, or our favorite guy is gone. Let's just get the safe pick. Don't overthink it. This dude is, like you said, and he could chase down quarterbacks. He could chase down running backs, especially in that backfield, because I don't care if a guy as a running back is running a 4.3. When he first receives that ball out the backfield, he is not bursting at 4.3 out of the backfield. He got to get going. So he can chase them down before they really get going. So for me with Jordan Davis, it's like, dependent, if he starts to fall, like I'd be telling you, like, stop overthinking it. Stop overthinking it. Like, don't get a prospect guy when you got a guy who could be a day one impact starter. And then if you keep seeing him fall and he gets to that 20, like, too many GMs overthought it, and then he's going to be considered a steal. And then when he's a steal, you look at it, that means one of those players are going to be a bust. And it's like, stop overthinking it. Like, that's what happens, is just stop overthinking it. That's what happens when I watch the draft. Like, don't overthink it. You overthought it.
And defensive linemen can make an impact day one. That's what I like about drafting defensive linemen. It's a good value. Like, they make an impact day one. Like, they're a starter, and just let them eat.
I mean, Jeff, from our favorite school alone, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa,
immediate
Chase
impact.
Young. I mean, all those guys right there, immediate impact, rookie of the year, all that. So,
you don't have to tell me. I'm a huge fan of drafting linemen.
And it is like for me, like, there were people coming at me because I said, like, I would draft Chase Young like number 1, number 2, whatever. And I think he got drafted 2 or 3. And I'm like, don't overthink it. Like, he's that dude. He's that guy. I mean, and that's really how I feel about Jordan Davis. Is like, he's that dude. He's that guy. And, like, you know, he's a safe pick. I mean, if you pick him, he ain't gonna be a bust. You know, he just ain't. Like, he's got too much potential, too much good tape, good film, good combine, that don't overthink it. Like Mo's saying, and that often happens during the draft. I think a lot of teams did that with JOK last year in the draft. Teams
for sure they did
a lot.
They did it with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons should have been number 1 pick in the draft, in my opinion. I said that from day one. Like, it's
Mo was obviously happy that he fell, you know, to his
he wasn't happy at the time. We could go back and watch the tape.
I wasn't happy day one. I really wasn't.
Ooh. I had to talk him into it. So that's how I feel too. I think Jordan, and I understand, like, it's complicated. And I think another thing too is with having what Aaron Donald just did to the Super Bowl, you get a lot of that, like, try to catch lightning in a bottle again. So that's going to sway people to, like, let's try and do this again. That, you know, the copycat thing always takes form. So we already kind of talked about how much does the combine matter to you guys. I think we've established, you know, where we're at with that. Mm-hmm. So, like, I want to talk about, like, whatever you can pick your favorite position, whatever position you like the most. What's something you watch the closest to your, like, you know, I like this guy and I want to see him do this. And as soon as he does it, like, it's a pass or fail. Like, what do you watch what's one thing you watch the closest dunks to, like, evaluate a prospect that maybe you're trying to figure out, you know, where he's going to be. Like, we talked about Jordan Davis. He runs a 40. You're like, okay, you know, maybe he moves up a spot, something like that.
Yeah. I think for me, it was really the DBs. Cause I thought a lot of the DBs are kind of like closely rated. Obviously, Sauce and Stinling are kind of those 2 clear-cut number 1, number 2 guys. And then there's a lot of guys, like, mixed in there between, like, 3 and 7, guys that I really like, think that could be first or second round guys that could be impactful right away. So the one thing that I really look at with defensive backs is control. Body control is very important. And that's why actually when I watch Sauce Gardner do some of these DB drills, I'm like, this guy has the stuff that can translate to the league right away. And that's why, you know, I was kind of upset that I didn't get to watch Stingley do that, because, you know, he didn't play a lot of football last year. He didn't do those drills. Like, I know he's really good. Like, I've seen the video of him and Jamar Chase.
Did Stingley play the year before?
Yes.
Okay, he did play. I don't know why I was thinking he was out the year before. Okay.
No.
Yeah, he kind of sucked.
Yeah, he was with the bad LSU team. Yeah.
So I I don't really
I don't know. Are we allowed to call SEC teams bad, or we just say a less than
bad.
great? Are we supposed to say a less than great SEC team?
They were bad. Okay, they were bad.
They were bad. And Jeff, we can, because we'll save that debate for another day. But Big Ten, they're right up there. But that's all I'm going to say on that. But no, Sauce Gardner was a guy that really impressed me. Another thing I look at too, quarterbacks, is like release, how you throw the ball, your pocket movement is a big thing. A guy that I've talked about a lot with my buddy in the recruiting department, Coach Dibble, is Malig Willis. Like we've been high on him, and I like what I saw at the combine, just the release. A lot of teams are really high on him. Also, another thing too, Jeff, is like watch the Senior Bowl and the combine, see how these guys do. If you put both together, you can learn a lot from what these guys are doing. So my two big things are quarterbacks and DBs. I think, they have the most to gain, because obviously those are two very important positions on the football field nowadays, especially in this passing age of the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. Mo, what do you watch closest when you're trying to figure out a prospect?
So if I'm watching a quarterback, I watch you throw one route. And if you can't throw that route, I will turn you off. Like you no longer have value. I will watch the quarterback throw the 10-yard out from the opposite hash. That's because you're throwing across the field.
You're basically throwing 40 yards.
Exactly. But that's the most common route, and you're not always going to be in the middle of the field. We know if there's an end around, you're on that hash. And so you can't tell me that if I have you at quarterback, that my receiver on the far end that I have running a 10-yard out route is obsolete for you as an option, because you can't throw. Like now I took away a whole side of the field without even playing defense by having a guy that can't make that throw. That route, to me, being able to, if you can't throw that, you can't really be a quarterback in the NFL. I don't care. You can't always roll out. These defensive ends are running 4.4s, 4.5s. Some of them are high 4.3s. Like we saw the guy from Penn State last year that went to Buffalo running a 4.3. Like, so you, depending on you being able to roll out to make those long throws, you don't have the time that you used to have. So I want to see you 3 to 5 step drop. I want to watch your release, and I want to watch how quick that ball gets from the opposite hash to that 10-yard out route, and I want to see how accurate it gets there. That's arguably one of, outside of the slant route, it's probably that in a curl. I want to see how you do on the opposite hash, throwing curl routes and out routes, because you're really, like you said, you're throwing 30, 40 yards, but you have to get it there in 2 seconds. Like you have 2 seconds from the snap to the release for you to release a pass and get it on the opposite side of the field. If you can't throw those routes from the opposite hash, why am I?
It doesn't matter.
Like, I'll turn your tape off. I don't care that you could drop back, get on 1 foot, and throw it 60 yards. You and probably 85% of the quarterbacks in the NFL can do that with no pressure. Let's just be, everybody has, I won't say everybody, but most people have strong arms. So I don't really care that off your back foot, like that Zach Wilson throw from last year, didn't impress me. Like, all right, that's cool, bro. Like, it looks cool. It's social media can go crazy over it. But Justin Fields could have made that throw. Trevor Lawrence, like, they all could have made that throw had they did it. And you saw that how much weight it held. Justin Fields started doing that after throwing after Zach Wilson, because he saw how much those passes impressed people. But I want to see how can you throw the basic 10-yard curl and 10-yard out route from the opposite hash, because that talks about your arm strength, your accuracy, and the zip on the ball. Because there's some people who can throw it far. They got the arm strength to throw it far, but they don't have that zip throwing the short routes. And that's what really matters. I can't look at you as a starting quarterback in the NFL if, depending on what hash we're on, you take away an option when running a play. Like, if that's not an option, they're obsolete. That takes away the whole purpose of running a whole play.
Yeah, and we talk about a guy like Josh Allen. We're talking about a guy that can make every throw. His field is bigger than most quarterbacks, and I'm kind of the same way. Like my route, that when I watch quarterbacks, it's this is more during the game, because obviously in drills, but it's like kind of the same situation. It's that like 20-25 yard dig route over the middle that you have to throw like in front of the safety, behind the linebacker. Matt Stafford, basically what Matt Stafford threw to win the NFC Championship game, I believe. And it's that one throw that you gotta. You're exactly right, though. You got to be able to make that throw, or to me, you can't win me a Super Bowl. And here's what's funny. I know Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. I can't explain it. Like, you can bring that up the rest of my life, and I'm like, yep, you're right. I have no idea. Like, there are some there's some outliers out there, but I think I kind of agree with that. I'm kind of with Dunks. I like watching the defensive backs, footwork to see if it translates into like football speed, wide receivers, the gauntlet drill, like your hand placement, and are you catching the ball in the right position, which most of them do. Like, these guys are so upper level nowadays. Quarterbacks, I'm kind of with you there. So this takes me into my next question, because I love this question. So what position needs the combine the least? Like, what's the position to where you're like, I don't even know if I care if any of them show up? Dunks, I'll let you go first, because I got an answer. You guys aren't going to be surprised.
Oh, this is such a tough question.
Well, I'm really smart, Dunks. I do that a lot.
Oh man,
I'm just kidding.
That's a great question. You know what? I'm gonna say running backs.
Of course, it's running backs.
And here's why.
I didn't even set you guys up. I swear, I did not know what your answers would be, but I was thinking running backs.
Here's the thing: is
what can a running back do in a combine? It means anything, because without contact, what does it mean?
Right, and I mean, here's the thing: is like, can you block? That's against competition. Can you run through tackles? Against competition. Can you catch? Obviously, you can catch the ball without anyone around. And then, like, how well do you run in space in between the tackles? Again, you need people out there. So,
what's your patience? What's your explosion through the hole?
Yeah,
like, you can't mimic what a running back has to do. Just like almost like a little bit like a linebacker. You just can't mimic what they have to do on a football field without players.
And again, too, it's like running backs, like a lot of them, start off kind of slow and then rely on that breakaway speed. Like, if you do a 40-yard dash, you can't really rely on your
what are you gonna have a dude like take 3 steps and then go?
Right. Like, that's the thing. So I think that's probably the position I would say. But Jeff, that's a really tough question. Like, that's a great question on your part.
So Mo, who needs the combine the least?
Running backs. I mean, it's running backs. It's for everything Dunk said, probably for everything you're gonna say. But like, because running back,
it just doesn't. None of it translates.
Yeah, because running backs have to read defensive linemen. You're not going to show me that you can do that.
Yes.
And it's cool if you run a 4-3, like, that's great. But some of the most dominant running backs in the league didn't run a 4-3. They were 4-4, 4-5. Like, and they get faster, they get progressively better.
And running backs have to carry so much extra weight because of getting the shit beat out of them for 6 months.
They go through the hole and get hit. Like, so there's so many factors that, like, I see this on film. So it's like, if you're an athletic freak, but how many athletic freaks do we even see at running back? Like, how many running backs have we actually talked about, during this draft process? How many running backs are projected to go first round? Let's just
wait. So
running backs are stars. How many top 10 running backs that got drafted in the NFL right now are the stars of the league? Chubb, second round. Derrick Henry, second round. Jonathan Taylor, second round. Like, Aaron Jones, fourth round. Zeke already broke down, got drafted in first round. Saquon Barkley's not even going to get a second contract by his first team because he's been injured
later.
All the guys, like all our guys, McCaffrey went first round, and then even you're seeing him break it down. So it's like,
he hasn't played in 2 years.
We're not even talking about these guys. Like, nobody has cared yet about what your running back rank is. Like, we can talk about them and bring out your running back rankings and show me. Kenneth Walker was a borderline Heisman candidate and is not going to go in the first round.
Let's talk about this. Who's
nothing he did at the combine to change that. Like,
right now, Mo, who's 2 questions. Who's the best running back in the draft, and will he go in the first round? I don't even know who it is right now.
So putting bias aside and taking consensus is Kenneth Walker. Like,
do you think he's better? Do you think he's better than Breece Hall? Is Breece Hall second? I don't even know anymore.
Breece Hall is my guy. Like,
I love Breece Hall.
Like, at running back 1, But the consensus is it's Kenneth Walker. I think Breece Hall will have the better career.
Well, Mo, I'm asking you. I'm asking Mo.
So I think Breece Hall is the best running back. I like everything I've seen him do at Iowa State. And let's not act like Kenneth Walker has been a star his whole career. Breece Hall resume speaks for itself. What he's done was consistent every year of his college career. Kenneth Walker I don't like breakout stars at running back. I barely like breakout stars at quarterback, to be honest.
I like that take.
But I definitely don't like a breakout star who had one great year at running back. And then here's where I evaluate guys.
And couldn't get a yard against the worst defense in the Big Ten.
So listen, so that's something. There were I want to say 4 running backs that I saw that when they went up against Ohio State's defense, Melvin Gordon, Monty Ball, Saquon Barkley, and now Kenneth Walker. When all of them, except Kenneth Walker, those were probably the best defenses they would face, before going into the NFL. They did absolutely nothing. Kenneth Walker went against a defense who was not great at stopping, wasn't great at stopping anything, and he could absolutely do nothing. He got pulled. Yeah. I get their defense did nothing, so you didn't want to keep him out there, but he had no productivity prior to that, and this was a defense where it looked like they turned it around against the consensus top running back in the draft. So I look at that. How do you play against the best defenses that you play against? And then you see, this is why I wouldn't take Saquon Barkley top 5. Look what he did against Ohio State. And then, he had a great rookie year. And then what has he done since then? And it's not about Ohio State, but these are Big Ten running backs that were first-round picks, projected first-round picks, Melvin Gordon, Monty Ball, all those guys. Even Jonathan Taylor. I was hesitant on Jonathan Taylor, and he's turned out to be great. You can be wrong, but the 4 other rights that I was hesitant.
Well, he's turned out to have a really good season and not make the playoffs. Let's not get. I'm just saying, we got to be honest.
His running backs don't really and I know
did it matter? Did it matter?
Matters, but who your running back is essentially probably doesn't matter, and that has been the least talked about group in since the combine started. Nobody has really talked about it. This is actually the first time I think Dunks 6 running backs ran under a 4.4. Yeah. 6.
Damn.
6 guys.
Yeah.
It's never been done before where 6 running backs ran under a 4.4, and guess what? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody's stock rose because they were running under a 4.4 at running back, because nobody cares. They know what the running back's going to do. Kenneth Walker is probably the consensus. He'll probably be the first running back taken, and he's going to go in the second round. If he slips, maybe late first round, but I don't even see this being a Najee Harris, Travis Etienne situation. I think he's going second round. So
that is true, because I really did like Travis Etienne last year. I hope still that he's a good running back. So
he seemed like to do it all, because he could catch. You could put him at slot receiver. He's the guy he had lined up as slot receiver at Clemson. So you saw that he was I won't say Deebo Samuel, but he was okay, we could plug and play him everywhere, how Deebo Samuel was. You put him the running back. I just don't think he'll be Deebo Samuel.
I got a fun question for Dunks then. Has Deebo Samuel devalued the running back draft, not position, but who you draft? After watching what Cordell Patterson too. Of those 2 guys, because they love Jeff, have they finally woke people up and everybody's well, maybe we need to start looking at how we draft running back? Has that hurt the running back draft class this coming year, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's definitely part of it. I think one of the things too is like Mo kind of talked about, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker. Walker had one great season, and Breece Hall was expected to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Didn't really have the best year in terms of what we were kind of projecting. Iowa State, that team as a whole, really didn't either. So I think that is part of it. And also, I think the running back position is going to turn into athletes. You know what I mean? And you're starting to see this kind of in the NFL. I mean, you look at Aaron Jones, the Packers had him out at wide receiver, running back, all kinds of things, kind of mix and matching. And I mean, you've seen guys for stretches when their backs go down that wide receivers are going back there playing halfback, So I think that's definitely part of it. But again, I mean, Deebo Samuel's, this dude is different.
Deebo Samuel, Cordell Patterson had
Patterson. They changed everything.
They were
revitalized their running back / receiver.
They're basically top 10 running backs when the season ended. This is a real thing that happened. I watched it happen. It's amazing. Deebo Samuel was one of the best running backs in the playoffs at wide receiver. Like I saw it happen.
And then you look at how, Cam Akers came back off an injury and how he was productive. And there were 4 different running backs playing running back for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the top pick. So you're going to look at McCaffrey. Their run game wasn't that bad with Chuba Hubbard. Then you look at Zeke, like Tony Pollard, numbers wise, based on his touches, was a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott this year. Yeah. The Giants' rushing offense was better when Devontae Booker was back there and healthy than they were when Saquon Barkley came back healthy. Nick Chubb missed the game, and D'Ernest Johnson made a name for himself, and Nick Chubb missed the game. Like,
shout out to D'Ernest Johnson.
Ernest Johnson made a name for himself, had a 100-yard game in the running offense. Maybe you could say, okay, well, D'Ernest Johnson had 120 yards. Maybe Nick Chubb has 160. Okay, but if I get 120 yards from my running back, I got all the production I needed. So you look at the top running backs when they missed time, even Derrick Henry, like the Titans offense they still were, they were what they were at the end of the day. Like it wasn't until their whole offense got injured that they took a step back. But even without Derrick Henry, running back by committee got the job done. So I think that, and then seeing on top, the icing on the cake was Deebo Samuel, Cordell Patterson, who basically revitalized his career being an athlete, playing wide receiver and playing running back. And then you see Chuba Hubbard, a 4th-round pick, stepping in for Christian McCaffrey, and their numbers are close to the same based on touches. Now, granted, you're not giving Chuba Hubbard the ball 40 times a game because you're not giving him every screen pass and everything else to save your quarterback. But, like, he was running the ball just as effective as Christian McCaffrey. It might not look as good. He might not have the name. The Panthers weren't winning games, so you don't really care. They weren't really winning games with Christian McCaffrey either. So it's when you look at the top-tier running backs and you look at when they miss time, the production of the running backs behind them is just as much, or it's been enough. I don't need more from them to win a game. And so, like, I just think the value of a running back, especially in the draft, is going down, and essentially, like, the value of playing running back is going to be kids are wanting to be a LaDainian Tomlinson, because LaDainian Tomlinson in today's NFL might not get that second contract. Like, as great as he was in today's NFL, like, or you won't get that second contract for being a running back. Like, if you're just an athlete, we could put you at running back. Like, I think guys like Percy Harvin and Tavon Austin wish they did play, because now you'd be like, I'm not great at receiver on press coverage. Put me at running back and watch what I do. So I do think it's going to turn into an athlete position.
Yeah, and I think this is they're going to be the biggest combination of the value of the position and just the potential of the draft picks. I think it's going to be pretty low. And you know what? Hey, both these guys might be great in the NFL, but that's just the facts of it. So we talked about who needs the combine the least. What position needs it the most? Dunks, you go first.
I'm gonna say defensive backs. I just think because they need to be able to show.
And they have to be fast. Defensive backs have to run a good 40. I think there's more pressure on them than any other position in football.
Yeah, that's one of them. Another thing that like, Jeff, we've been talking all show is that drill at the end that they do. That is so important. Like, to be able to see it in front of 32 NFL GMs is huge. And also getting to talk to guys, because DBs nowadays are very, very, very important in today's NFL. It's because it's a passing league. You got Josh Allen, Mahomes, all these young guns at quarterback who can throw the ball all over the yard. You need guys.
I would not want to be an AFC West defensive back right now.
No,
my goodness.
The worst quarterback you're guarding is Derek Carr. Good Lord.
And I mean, Derek Carr, like, that dude's severely underrated, but that's for another day. But I think it's DBs, Jeff. But here's the thing, again, it's like you can make an argument for a lot of positions. I just think DBs because of the importance of the position in today's NFL.
That makes sense. Mo, who needs the combine the most, in your opinion? Like, if I'm Mo Murphy, I'm getting ready to do a draft capital show, I'm evaluating these players. Who am I like? This is the position class that I got to watch to try and sort through this.
Believe it or not, I'm gonna say quarterbacks, and I don't.
Okay, wow, that does surprise me.
During the whole combine process, it's not just on the field, and so you saw it with, like, and I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to say the statement and then keep it moving. But like with Malig Willis, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, that guy, we got him in the room and that guy breaks down offenses. He's smarter than we thought, right? So that's why it matters, because they had this. And then with Kenny Pickett, like him being his stock has dropped a little bit. People are already hesitant, and then they're even more hesitant because like he doesn't have that strong arm we were looking for. He has the small hands, which you have to care about a little bit. But like when the way he was slinging the ball at Pittsburgh, I don't know how much the small hands will affect him, but seeing him actually throw at the combine was like, he's not as
I don't
crisp with the passes as I thought. But I think because with quarterbacks during combine week, it's more so in the room. I think it's what matters for them. And so it's what we don't see on the field is behind closed doors. And I think that's what matters.
Yeah,
so,
I think it's huge. Yeah, I agree. I've always said the interview room is the most important part of the combine. But as far as Kenny Pickett goes, I'm just going to we won't break him down because we got a lot of time before the NFL draft. I do not have here's how I am on quarterbacks. And I'm kind of like with Mo. If I don't think you can be a good starting quarterback, I don't care anymore. Like, I don't care if you're the 32nd best. I just don't care. And Kenny Pickett, I do not see him as a playoff quarterback in 3 years. So therefore I really just I don't care anything beyond that, just because that's how quarterbacks, because you don't have two quarterback systems. You don't have guys off the bench. You don't have third down quarterbacks. Like, it's a starter or it's a not. And if you go to playoffs or you don't, and something Pickett, what I saw on the field at Pitt and then everything with the combine, I'm like, I've seen a lot of Kenny Pickett's in my life. This is shout out to Stu, another member of the network, Morning Brew with Stu. He couldn't make it tonight, but his 1984 theory is this is the year that's going to be proved. Teams talk themselves into we have to take a quarterback because this is what you do. But this year there just aren't enough starting quarterbacks to pick in this. I could honestly see, if I did my own personal draft board, I don't know if there's a first round quarterback in this class. And I mean that. I just haven't saw one yet that I'm like, oh, this guy can take me to the Super Bowl. I don't know. Maybe Willis. Willis is the guy I was highest on all year as far as NFL potential. But I will not say that I've watched enough tape, watched the combine. I haven't talked to him. I have no idea what he's doing, but he was the guy all year that I'm like, that's, to me, that would be the guy that translates to the NFL the best. But I honestly have no idea. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I do.
I'll just say for the Malig Willis, though, is even people are still saying they want to see him go to Atlanta or Minnesota to sit a year, which means if I want you to sit a year, I don't like my first round picks project that they need.
That's what I'm getting at.
Like Trey Lance, because we drafted him to sit a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo. I just moved up to the number 3 pick. If I got the number 3 pick and I take a quarterback, you are my day one starter. We listened to
I agree.
It's going to be a quarterback competition. We knew Trevor Lawrence was a starting quarterback the minute he got drafted.
Wait, you try to say Urban Meyer might be a liar?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Wait, what a hot take.
What a hot take, Mo. My God.
It's especially first round, but if it's later, okay. And I got a Matt Ryan and I'm picking at 28, 29. Yeah. I got a good team. I need his successor because I have everything else. That's a different story. But if I'm talking about top 10, top 15, you got to be my day one starter. I almost didn't even like the idea of we're drafting Mac Jones to sit a year behind Cam Newton. I could get an impact player day one that can help me for the next 5 years and worry about a quarterback in another draft if what my plan now is to pan out. I don't like my first round quarterback already being said that he should sit a year.
I agree.
Turn him into a project quarterback. If I take you got to be ready to start.
What ruined it was Aaron Rodgers, because it worked out so well that everybody's every example, every first round quarterback that sits, everybody brings up Aaron Rodgers because football goes. That's what football does. They just go by the past. It doesn't matter how long ago anything happened. They're like, just like Aaron Rodgers. And everybody goes, oh, okay, it'll work.
Well, that was Love. For me, my counter would be okay, let's look at the same team. Let's look at Jordan
Love.
There's
a million counters. There's a million counters.
Green Bay just paid a 38-year-old quarterback $50 million a year because they didn't trust the guy they drafted 2 years ago to be ready and get Aaron Rodgers. Look at the haul they had. Look at what
I'm with you.
What Denver got Green Bay could have got that. And if Jordan Love was a guy that's sitting for a year or two and it was going to pan out for me, we could have had a whole bunch of first round picks. We wouldn't have to rebuild. We got a guy who's in his third year and ready to go. That's why I don't trust that system, because then now look, especially if I have a quarterback who I feel like is better today, what opportunity are you going to have to show me that you're better than this guy after this year? Like, people are still talking about Jimmy G. They might not move off of Jimmy G because Trey Lance might not be ready. Like, so why did I move up to number 3, get rid of a first round pick to take him? Like, that.
Imagine Micah Parsons on San Francisco. Like, that's what could be happening.
Or you could add like Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase. Like, just think about, like, you could add Penny Sewell to be at right tackle with the best left tackle in the league. Like, so you look at it like that, and it's like, I don't want a quarterback.
And this is what I was talking about, these contract problems. So now, like, let's say they go through another year with this of Lance. Well, now they're wasting the quote unquote cheap years. So then if Lance has a good season, his third year, now all of a sudden they're going to owe a guy by then $60 million a year, and they wasted the first 2 years. That's what I don't like about.
So now you're in a rush to evaluate to see if he's your quarterback in the future or not. Like, so that's why I don't like a guy. I didn't like when you took Baker and you're willing to start Tyrod Taylor. Like, if you take, like, I didn't take him number 1.
Everybody kind of coming around on now, like how the Baker's level play. Like, are we finally at the point to where we're like, okay, his level play is.
Yeah, but even like with Mahomes, people will be like, well, Mahomes said, well, they took a chance on Mahomes, but that Chiefs team was a playoff team that was able to jump up a few spots, grab Mahomes. They did their homework on that, and they took a gamble, and it paid out.
And they had a plan to definitely move on the next year. Like, I don't mind you sitting.
And they made the playoffs that year as well, where he played in that week 17, and they were like a playoff team anyway, like playoff caliber team, and they knew, like, Alex Smith is gone after this year. Like, we're taking Mahomes because we know he's gone, and he was a free agent at that time too. We know we're not paying him for the long haul, but when you got a guy, so I don't. You
don't know what's funny. Ben Roethlisberger was drafted to back up Tommy Maddox. That's a true story. And Tommy Maddox got hurt, and Ben Roethlisberger didn't lose for 12 weeks.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But look how that, like, yes, that can turn out that way, right? But like, if I'm taking a quarterback in the first round, you're starting one. I don't really care who I got. Period.
One, I think too, like you guys have been talking about, like, I think part of it too is some teams try and move off of guys too early. Like, I think that was the case with San Fran and Jimmy G. I think that's what the Packers try to do with Aaron Rodgers. And sometimes it ends up biting you. Because, I mean, San Fran made the NFC Championship game last year. You know, they're starting to realize, okay, maybe Jimmy G can get us to where we need to be. Already took us to a Super Bowl, guys to an NFC Championship game. Packers take Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers wins back-to-back MVPs. Jordan Love plays a couple games, looks absolutely atrocious, does not look good at all on film. And, you know, that's kind of how it went.
To me, Jordan Love never looked that good on film. I was never a Jordan Love guy. You can go back to my first season, everybody, when he was in college, and you could listen to my shows, and I was always like, I don't see it.
Well, because of Mahomes, Jordan Love exists. Period. Like, you hope because of Mahomes, Jordan Love goes in the first round. Because he made some amazing throws at Utah State, and like, it looked good and all. Like, he looked pretty decent on film, but then you talk about who he played against, and he wasn't consistently good. He just had flashes. And you're like, he could turn into the next Mahomes.
And what worried
Jordan Love got drafted in the first round.
Yeah, what worried me was some of his biggest games. A lot of it he did with his legs, which is fine to win games in college. I'm not against that, but that doesn't translate. It just doesn't translate to the NFL when they're like,
Barrett was an undrafted free agent at quarterback because he broke all the numbers you would want a quarterback to break in college, but most of the damage he did was with his legs, and you knew when you watched him. Like, you can answer that question for a guy at Ohio State, at Alabama, at LSU, but then, like, you have hope for a guy at Utah State that tells you everything that JT Barrett told you, that AJ McCarron told you.
I agree. I think that's a great comparison.
He told you that at Power 5 schools, but then you're like, oh, well, I'll buy stock because he's a small school guy. Like, I like Malig Willis, but I don't like taking him in the first round if he's not your day one starter. Like, even with Seattle, like, if Seattle does decide to take Malig Willis,
that's a great landing spot.
He should not compete with Drew Lock day one. He should. If I'm rebuilding and I draft Malik Willis at number 9, he is my starting
He's
quarterback.
starting day one.
I'm going through the growing pains. I'm not making no quarterback competition between him and Drew Lock. We saw Drew Lock. I want you to be a day one starter. If I have plans on sitting you on the bench, you're a second round guy in my eyes. Period.
Well, and that's why I think too. Like, I don't think Seattle's going to take quarterback because they traded for Drew Lock. Now they might. I don't know, but like, I think if
they don't.
Well, they may take one late, but in this draft class, like I know that there's going to be a quarterback taken late that's good, but we don't know who that is.
I mean, I'll say this. A guy that, like, if he 3rd, 4th round, if you get Desmond Ridder in the 3rd or 4th round, now I don't think he's a perfect quarterback yet by any means, but if you draft him like 3rd, 4th round, bring him in, get him to know your system a little bit, I think he has potential. And again, like,
I think Ridder can be really good in the
right system,
in a really good situation.
You know why
like
Ridder exists? Because of Dak Prescott. Ridder is he's not Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Kellen Mond existed because of Dak Prescott. I think Ridder has more Kellen Mond potential than I do think he has Dak Prescott potential. Like, that's where I look at, like, certain quarterbacks, when we're evaluating them, they exist because this guy did this at this situation. So Dak was a 4th round quarterback, ends up being a $40 million quarterback. Whether you agree with he should have got paid, he turned into a $40 million quarterback.
Right.
Also seen like, oh, his prototype Ian Book or Kellen Mond, like they believe in Ian Book or Kellen Mond because they believe in Dak Prescott. I think that's Desmond Ridder. I think he's more Ian Book or Kellen Mond than he is Dak Prescott.
Wow.
But because Dak Prescott exists, Desmond Ridder's going to get that kind of love because he's Dak Prescott-esque.
Yeah, I could see it. He's got all the leadership, all the charisma. His physical skills are good enough.
Yeah.
Great season. I can see that. Well, here's the truth about the quarterback situation or the quarterback position. So basically it breaks down like this. You got 32 teams. A quarterback plays a long time. So essentially there's only one. If you look at the numbers, there's basically only one starting quarterback in the draft every other year. If you do the numbers, like it seems like there's 5 a year, but there's not because they play forever. And so you really only get a true starting NFL quarterback every other year. One, like that's how drastic it is.
If I'm a team that needs a quarterback and I'm an absolutely bad team, and Seattle Seahawks, skip this year, surround myself.
That's what I say.
Set myself up. But, draft my protection, kind of like Detroit did. Like, they got Penei Sewell. They didn't go for a quarterback. They could have got Justin Fields, whatever.
Yeah, but here's the problem with Detroit. They're Goff makes I always call him Justin because I grew up with him. Jared Goff makes like $30 million against the cap this year. So that's also a mistake.
But they drafted Penei Sewell to make sure that they drafted.
No, that was the right pick. But
Back to the future, do that.
Shed Goff.
Tank for Bryce Young. Or tank for CJ Stroud. Like, if I'm Seattle, I got a tight end, I got a wide receiver, I might trade Lockett, whatever. I got a whole bunch of picks, and I got Drew Lockett quarterback. I can almost guarantee I'm in the NFC West, and my team will suck. And I have extra draft compensation that if
Seattle's going to be so bad.
Yeah, and if I'm a little bit better than suck, if I'm not the worst team, if I'm the 4th worst team, I got enough draft picks. I can move up to number 2 because you might get a team like the Jets, or what if the Jags are bad again? They still got Trevor Lawrence. They might not need a quarterback, and then boom, I give you one of my first and the second round pick next year, and I move. So if I'm a team like that and I'm Seattle and I know I'm going to be bad whether I get Malik Willis or not, why not go get what we're talking about probably all year next year is the surefire guys in CJ Stroud or Bryce Young and start with all my draft capital.
Which makes me sad. Which makes me sad that we're already talking about CJ Stroud going to draft. That makes me really sad because I get so tired of doing this every 2 years.
But I mean,
moving on from the quarterback, it sucked.
Jeff, it's that's.
Well, no, I don't blame him for drafting
national an elite program, but geez,
national championship winner CJ Stroud sounds good to me.
Hey, but Jeff, all that matters, man, is if Stroud delivers on
that's all that matters.
Next year,
I'm good. I'll let him go.
Draft. I'm good with that.
National championship winner, CJ Stroud.
Let him ride off into the sunset.
So, okay, one last question. So, what's just give me one player that jumped up in the draft for you based on strictly on the combine, if there is one. Dunks, you go first.
I got two, Malig Willis and Sauce Gardner.
Okay.
Those are the two guys. I think those guys are gonna go higher than expected. I think Malig Willis, just what he was able to kind of show throwing the ball wise, and also I heard that he did impress in a couple of interviews that he had as well. I know Pittsburgh's a team in that 20th range. I kind of expect them
anything but that.
I kind of expect them to trade up and try and get this guy if he goes a little bit. But another team is like, Carolina. They're not really super happy with their quarterback situation right now. They could take him. And then
you don't think Cam's coming back?
No, I think Cam's done. I mean,
Cam's been done for Cam. Cam's been done since Von Miller took that ball in the Super Bowl.
I love Cam. Absolutely love Cam. Like,
I don't blame you, but he's been done for a while.
Yeah, he has. And then Sauce Gardner. I've been saying it, Sauce, man. I just think this is the best corner in the draft. I don't think he's going to be the best player in the draft, but I'm a huge fan of this guy's, and I just love the hard energy, intensity that he plays with and brings. And
you do have a fighting mentality at that position, though. Like that is something to factor in. Like a cornerback has to want to play football. Like he has to have a little dog in him.
And also, what I like about Sauce is like he can play outside or inside. That's huge.
Oh, you got to, you got to now. That's for sure.
And you definitely saw that like in the way he's able to move, footwork, and all that stuff. So those are the two guys for me that really moved up, in my opinion.
I'll take either one of them for the Dolphins. I'll just put my hand up right now. I'll take either one of them. No, what player jumped up the most for you after the weekend?
Dunks took the cop out. He went and got the stars and said they moved up. You copped out, Dunks. I'm taking George Pickens. My two players is at the wide receiver position. I'm taking George Pickens and Sky Moore. I think Sky Moore moved up. I think he'll be a late first, early second round pick. And he could drop to the third round, but I think he'll have some impact on day one. He could be a team's third best receiver. We're in a passing league. We see the impact that a slot receiver can have on a team. So when I look at him, I think he's done enough. Could be, I don't know about late first. I think early to mid second round, could fall to the third and really be a gem for a team. And then George Pickens, because this is a guy his freshman year, before he got injured heading into his sophomore year, and then wasn't able to necessarily bounce back. And I know they won the national championship, but he didn't have a great quarterback to get him the ball. But what we saw from him his freshman year was a guy
he was amazing.
Could be the best wide receiver in this draft. And at that time, his freshman year, we were looking at like guys like him, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave's, like all the guys that are out now. And we're like, man, George Pickens might hands down, the way he played his freshman year, might hands down be the best wide receiver. Ran a 4.43 in the 40, which was absolutely amazing from him coming back from an ACL injury. Showed us a little bit of flashes throughout the end of the season last year and in the national championship. Had a couple key catches. But then for him, how he looked in the combine and for what we had projected from him early, pre-injury, was kind of like we looked at him like we looked at Derek Stingley at corner, and we haven't yet seen that from Derek Stingley since his freshman year. Kind of the same thing with Pickens, but he's wild, and I think a team is going to be lucky to have him, and he's going to go to maybe late first. I think he's early second as well, but I think a team like Jacksonville, and you pair him alongside maybe DJ Chark and put Laviska Shenault at the slot, and so he benefits from he's your second best wide receiver day one. So I think those two guys, especially in a pass-heavy league, I think those two guys, if Sky Moore goes and he's your slot receiver somewhere, bring him to Dallas. I'd love him. But if he goes to as a slot receiver, and I think George Pickens shows like he has the size, the speed, everything we wanted and saw from him his freshman year, he was able to bounce back and kind of get that charisma. I just don't think he did enough to pass up the surefire guys that we got to see be elite all year in, the wide receiver from Arkansas, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. We know
wide receiver class. This is a good wide receiver class.
Like Treylon Burks. Like I don't think he did enough to pass them, but I think he did enough to put himself in that conversation where he's probably ahead of David Bell, ahead of Calvin Austin, probably even ahead of Sky Moore. I think he put himself in that fifth or sixth best wide receiver, which could put him early second round. And I think
it's what a deep class. It's amazing. Of course, there, basically you got three on the field, all the time now. So you got 100 starting wide receivers in the league basically now. So it does make sense. All right. So Mo, I'll let you go first this time. Then Dunks can yell at you. So what player do you have any player you have that dropped in your opinion?
Drop. When you had sent this, I was like, oh man, there's a couple players that drop, but now I'm gonna go basic. I got on dunk, so now I'm gonna go basic. Kenny Pickett. He was quarterback one in a lot of people's eyes. I don't really care about the small hands. It was watching him throw the ball. Like, it was just that, plain and simple. I know even if he could dissect the defense, they said his meetings weren't the greatest either. So that's never a great thing to hear about from a quarterback prospect, especially when everybody was oohing and ahhing over Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis. To be a quarterback who was QB1, I think he dropped. I don't know if he'll be the first quarterback taken. And it's one of those, like, not enough teams need a quarterback that they would probably take a chance on Kenny Pickett. He could still fall. Maybe the Steelers stand pat and go ahead and get him. They find something that they love. They seem like they're committed to Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, so have fun with that one. But if they do get Kenny Pickett, and I think he could be a guy where I don't like him going in the first round if he's not going to start. But I think he could drop like to the early second round, and somebody takes him as, like, maybe Minnesota takes him as a backup to Kirk Cousins in case they move on to him and the Kellen Mond situation failed. Maybe a team like Miami takes him because they like him enough and they're not sold on Tua, and it's coming around the time where his contract's going to be up. So I'm not sure exactly where he'll go, but I think he dropped for me where he's not. I'm gonna be honest, he's not a top 25 pick, in my opinion. And then I look at the late first round, like, who really needs a quarterback in the late first round that would take Kenny Pickett? So, I mean, he's gonna go in the first round just because he is a quarterback. But to me, like, the safe way to take Kenny Pickett is to make him sit a year, and I do that in the second round. So he's dropped a lot because, like you said, I paid attention to how he threw that 10-yard out opposite hash, like everything on the opposite. I didn't like it. There wasn't enough zip. The arm strength wasn't there. It seemed like he had to try too hard to sling the ball down the field. It didn't look natural like it did with Malik Willis and Desmond Ridder on those deep routes. It wasn't the most accurate. Malik Willis, they were dropping balls in guys' chest 60 yards down the field, and it looked like it took everything in him to get it. And he could be playing. He goes to Pittsburgh. He goes to Seattle. He's playing in cold weather majority of the year.
Playing in crappy weather.
Strength in crappy weather is not what I want. That's why, like, Josh Allen is so great in Buffalo. Even like Kansas City has crappy weather sometimes. That's why Mahomes is a perfect guy to have at Kansas City. So if he's not in, like, New Orleans or something, and he's playing in a dome, I don't really necessarily like him. As good as he played at Pitt, I just don't really like him for the NFL in a crappy weather team like Pittsburgh, where it gets really cold really early. In those games in late September, early October, turn out to be you're playing in 50-degree weather, and it only gets colder, with a slight wind chill at night. You know how it is being in the Midwest, Jeff. So
no, believe me, I know.
Kenny Pickett has dropped a lot for me. To the point I say he's I give him a second round grade, to be honest.
Dang, I like it. Dunks, who dropped the most this weekend for you personally?
Mo, come on.
Yell at Mo first.
Mo, you ripping on me for taking Malig Willis, and then you go Kenny Pickett. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. I know, Mo.
But Pickett isn't the star. Like, your risers were the stars of the combine and the stars of the draft at this point. Kenny Pickett's not a star. People are like, we like him because we don't like anybody else.
Yeah, but Kenny Pickett's been talked about as a top 10 to 15 pick. So, he's up there, Mo, obviously, you know what I mean? But
he was only a top 10 to 15 because he's a quarterback. That's it. If he played running back and people were or not even running back, if he played wide receiver, forget running back because we know people don't value. If he played wide receiver and people were hesitant on whether he could be an NFL wide receiver, he would be a fourth round pick at best.
Yeah.
Like, if we're coming into the combine already asking, can he be even a starter in the NFL at wide receiver? That's a fourth round grade and prove us different. But because he's a quarterback and it's the most valuable position, he's talked about in the first round. But if he was that good in the first place, we wouldn't be talking about how bad the quarterback class was or how much we don't love it. But because he played quarterback, I respect that he's a first rounder because somebody's going to do it. That's why he's projected as a first rounder, because somebody's going to do it. But he's not one of the 25 best players in the draft.
I will say, Mo, I do agree with you on Kenny Pickett on the take there. I think for me, it's really Tyler Linderbaum. And I think one of the reasons is because of how all the other offensive linemen showed up and showed out. Especially those top three guys, Cross, Akonwu, and Evan Neal really kind of separated themselves from Linderbaum. I kind of had Linderbaum like in that 4 spot, kind of set in there, but before the combine. And now, like, maybe he's fourth, maybe he's fifth, something like that. I think he's definitely a late first round guy. I think he's going to be a good player, but I think, the combine hurt him a little bit because of how other guys did. He didn't impress me as much as some of the other guys did, because really, I thought if Linderbaum showed up and showed out, that he could be a guy that goes early in this draft. In my pre-combine top 10, I had Linderbaum at 10. And now I probably have him at about 15 to 20, maybe even 25. So he's fallen down my list quite a bit. Another guy I'll throw out there too is Stinling. I think him not showing up at the combine, I think is going to hurt him a little bit more than Kayvon Thibodeau, because we've seen Thibodeau has proven. We've seen him do it this year, play. He's a freak athlete. I know Stingley's great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's going to be a great player, but I think him not participating in the combine might hurt him a little more than some people kind of think in that regard.
Yeah, especially without all the playing time. Yeah.
Yep.
It's interesting. There's so much that goes into this stuff. It is so hard to quantify, like, whatever 30 or 40 seconds of drills that these guys run compared to like what they've dedicated their whole life to. I would tell you what, I wish we could watch or be a part of the interviews more than I do anything else, because as somebody, I'm an older guy. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people. Like, I would get more like, listening to a guy talk and answer questions and having a conversation with him than probably I could from anything I see out there. But that's what the combine's all about. It's fun. They have a good time. You get to see some freak athletes. It's just another evaluation system outside of all the tape you watch.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, we would all be billionaires if we actually knew how the draft was going to go. We knew who was really going to be the best. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong, just like everybody else. It depends on the situation, everything else. But I want to thank both of you guys for all your time. This was a great show. We covered a lot of ground here, and I feel better about it. I feel like I watched the combine. I kind of now, but you give me some players to go back and look at. You give me some, some thoughts on it. And Mo, hates Kenny Pickett. I love that. You know what I mean? We're going to run with that into the draft. I think he's going to be right. Like, I'm kind of team Mo about this. Dunks not super high on Ritter, coming out of it. Either way, his stock is rising, but overall, I appreciate both your guys' thoughts on this. Everything you put into it. I know how much you care about this, and I know you'll have a lot of information going up to the NFL Combine. So, Dunks, tell everybody where they can find you and where they can listen to you.
Yep. Go check us out on YouTube, Dunkel Productions. We post a lot of podcast stuff. Right now, March Madness, NFL Draft stuff coming to you weekly, daily, all the above. Live's gonna start coming back. You can follow me on Twitter at Coach_B Dunks. If you guys feel like it, I always drop sports takes, stuff like that. But yeah, make sure to go check us out. Also, make sure to go check out Off the Ball Network, which is what this show is on. The YouTube channel is on right now. We're doing big things over there. Old Jeff and Mo VPs, goated.
For sure. Mo Murphy, I know you got a lot of stuff going on right now. This is one of the busiest months, busiest times of the year for Mo. Tell them where they can find you, what you got going on, bro.
Yeah, so this is why I took a break for 2 weeks after football season, because now it's March Madness, it's NFL draft, it's ramping up for about to be NBA playoffs.
Oh my God,
so much going. It's like I really can't wait for the summertime. I promise you, I can't. I could probably take a break, but then who knows? Then we're gonna ramp up into football season to breaking down divisions and all that. So it's like doing basketball and football, I don't really get a break, because I get a break July, and then come August, we're talking college football and NFL. But it's always great coming on with you, Jeff. Obviously, Dunks, I love getting on with you as well. We'll get you on to talk hoops here in a little bit. We'll get you on Draft Capital, NFL as well. It only makes sense with you covering the draft. But you can go check out the show, Draft Capital NFL, hosted by me and Stu, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I haven't been on the past couple of weeks. We are doing the show this week. Oh, at 8 p.m. Eastern, my bad, 7 p.m. Central. You can check out Up in Flames. You hear it every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel. Just had my guy Max Van Auken, a.k.a. Spider-Man, on the show. So make sure you go check that out. And check out Off the Ball Network. I mean, everything we do, I can't even keep up with everything we do.
It's crazy right now.
The content's ramping up. So yeah, I appreciate you for having me on though, Jeff.
No, both you guys are the best, man. Again, I'm Jeff Needs Sports, at jhunt006 on Twitter. You know, let me know what you think. Let me, you know, I'm always open for suggestions for new shows. We got a big setting the screen coming up this week about the new Batman movie. A lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now. A lot of action at Off the Ball Network. These two are just, you know, they're a part of it. There's just so much content going on right now. So thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for any likes, you know, shares, comments. You guys know the deal. We love it. We appreciate it. It's what we do it for. Everybody have a good week. Be kind to each other, and we're out.